everyone. Welcome to another Thunderground Thursday on enlightenment and transformation. I'm your host, Yuya, and I want to thank you all for joining me on this evening. And as with recent segments, this one will not be a terribly long one, but we're going to get right to it and right into it. This segment, we're dealing with the idea of self-esteem. Okay, self-esteem, which I know in community of knowers and learners and those who tout themselves as being self-aware, that's a huge issue a lot of times, because the self-esteem is gauged and made synonymous with ideas of self-worth. And self-worth becomes very difficult for us to really properly estimate, because sometimes our value scale for said worth is not a value scale that is intrinsic to our own culture. So it becomes difficult to determine what our worth is, what our value is, and to really have a healthy sense of self-esteem because of the environment sometimes that we're raised in, or the culture that has served as an umbrella or really more so a ceiling for our own comprehension. So we're going to get right into that, this idea of self-esteem. And I just want to give a quick announcement real quick. I released another lecture video on YouTube earlier today. Sent out some links we sent out, but just for those of you who have not seen it or who are not on social media, if you go to YouTube and you search Anu Nation, you will see a video. It's called, you could even put Anu Nation Zombies. I think the video is called Zombies Are Here or something like that, or The Zombie Is Here, something like that. But if you put the word zombie and Anu Nation, you should be able to pull it up. Or even Soulless, and that's about an hour long here. There you go, they're looking for me. There it goes, it already starts, right? As soon as I think I'm being stationary by doing the show, because sometimes it's my only stationary moments in a day is actually doing the show. I'm sitting still. But so we'll mute all of that so we can get to it. But in any event, yeah, so you can go there and you can look for, and you can check out that workshop, which is, for a lot of you, might be stuff that you've already heard from me, and might reaffirm some things, or might be some new information. And also there's other lectures on YouTube, just so you all know. I don't think a lot of you know, but if you search enlightenment and transformation, it has its own channel now, because we're putting the shows right there. And if you search Orisha religion, there's a whole 2-hour lecture there that I did in New Orleans that I think a lot of people, it doesn't have that many views, so I think a lot of people know about it. I didn't really do a lot of advertisement on it. I just kind of put it up. So you can check out that lecture. That's a pretty good one. And there's another one in Dallas that I did. But if you search enlightenment and transformation, or search A New Order, or search Orisha religion, or Sadulu House, you'll find those newer channels, which we had to kind of break up our channels because we were using YouTube, but mainly functioning through one or two channels, which was fine. But we have so much different types of content that we decided that we would break it up a little bit and try to organize it through playlists and whatnot like that. So the shows will be going up. Of course, a lot of the shows already are up for enlightenment and transformation, but the new segments will be coming up on YouTube. So I know it's a lot easier to access the shows. You know, I always have something to say about Blog Talk, but one of the corny things about them is that they don't have an app for your phones. Maybe it's in development, I don't know, but they should have had it by now. A real app. They actually do have an app. I'm sorry, but it's barely functional. But at least with YouTube, all phones, pretty much from Windows phones, iPhones to Android phones, have a YouTube app. So that's why we started putting all the shows up on YouTube, so people could access them more easily, which also helps us to reduce some of the support questions that come in regards to I can't play the show, which you guys should understand that if you can't play a show on Blog Talk, then you have to contact Blog Talk, because we can't, we don't really have anything to do with that. But YouTube, I think a lot of you would get a little better luck out of. And I encourage you to comment on the videos. I encourage you to like the video, hit the like button if you like them, and share them. That helps us a lot. And I'm going to tell you how this works. When you comment on the videos, for one, we can interact with you, which is very important. When you hit the like button or you hit the share button, it lets people know what we're doing. Okay. But also when you hit the like button and the share button, it brings those videos closer in the YouTube ranking. So what that means is this: if somebody right now maybe search for self-actualization, one of our videos may be like the 100th video. Nobody's going to keep clicking through till they get to the 100th video. They're going to click on the first couple ones that they see. So when YouTube sees that you're interacting with the actual material, the content, then it says, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. So when somebody searches self-actualization, it brings it higher up in the rankings. So if you're appreciating what you're listening to on these channels, and it's helping you and it's changing your lives, then, like I said, subscribe to the channels, comment on the videos, share the videos, hit the like button on the videos. Okay? That does a lot for us, believe it or not. It does a whole lot for us. And it makes our job a little easier down the road. It's a whole technical thing. But what we really try to do is make things easier. What we're doing here is really focusing on, and this is why I've pulled back recently on some of the things that I do. I really want to focus more on content, information, and the message, and just really bringing some potent information to everybody. So I don't like to have to really take up resources doing a whole lot of promotions and marketing and things like that, because and this goes to what we're talking about today. When you're valuing yourself or you're estimating yourself properly, you know really where you should lie. So in my evaluation of the work that our new nation is doing, our new family is doing, I don't feel like we really need to do a whole lot of begging for people. Hey, come get this healing, please. So because of that, I don't do a lot of marketing. I don't have like a constant Twitter feed. Once in a while, I'll drop a little idea as it comes to me. But usually if I get an idea that comes to me, I don't just think to automatically put it out there. I might want to let it sit for a while to see if what I'm thinking makes sense. And if it may make sense, and just see if it has any value to anyone aside from me. So that's why I'm not always so quick to just constantly be throwing Twitter stuff out there, doing videos every 5 minutes, things like that. So we really rely on those who are supporters, not just listeners, but those who are supporters of the content to help us out in that area. So that's why I wanted to share that with you. But also just to give you a heads up, there's some new workshops online that you can check out that are right on YouTube. Some new, and I'll call them classes, because a lot of times when people listen to those lectures, I'll get emails say, "Oh man, that was a great class." And it is a class, but I'm just putting it up as content that we have here. That maybe I might say, I don't want to sell this, let's give it away, which I do with a lot of stuff. But I don't know, for whatever reason, sometimes the spirit hits me and I say, well, nah, people need to just hear this and just soak it up, so I just figured I'd let you all know that there is new content for those of you who are interested in things like that. Okay. I do understand that sometimes the radio shows by themselves can be pretty filling, from what I've been told. I don't go back and listen to my shows. I just started to recently listening to a couple of them, but people have told me, it's a lot to get through just with the shows. That's good. Keep getting through it, cut through it, hold on to it, keep listening, because you never know how long a person will be here. Sometimes we take information for granted, and we take our experiences for granted in terms of what is in front of us right now. We think is always going to be like this, but nothing stays the same. Nothing lasts forever. So there'll come a time where YouTube won't be the god of media anymore. Blog Talk will fade away. It may be more difficult or less difficult to have a broadband connection. Who knows? But you may not want any house. It's kind of like, you remember when, well, a lot of you probably are there anyway, but I'll say for myself, when the digital cable boxes came out. Remember when they were sending out the vouchers where you could get the cable box and the government was helping you to get a clearer picture on your television? I myself, that's when I dropped out of the TV cable race. I said, all right, I'm good. I've watched enough. There's really nothing else I need to see. Cause I said, I'm not interested in which I know is a bi-directional box inside of my home. I got enough bi-directional activity with my power meter and all the different RFID chips that they throw up into everything. I'm sending out enough information, you know. So I said, I don't need this huge TV, this 100-watt TV, you know. So it's got a lot of amplification for whatever signal it is that it's sending me or it's taking from me. So I said, I'm not interested in that. So no more cable, which could have been something that somebody would have said, we're going to have cable TV forever. We're always going to have HBO and Showtime. But something may change and you may say, okay, I'm out. I don't want this. Something may change with the cell phones, where one day, you know, you find something, you say, oh, enough for the cell phones. I'm good. You know, I'll just have to move close to the people that I care about. That's how we'll stay in touch. Because this isn't it anymore. Or the first time you get an offer online for an Android or a robot made in your likeness, and you find out when Google says, well, hey, we've been capturing your images through your computer's webcam and through Skype, FaceTime, and through Google Hangouts. We have all of your voice inflections because you've been using the free Google products like Hangouts and Google Voice and YouTube and things like that. So at this point, we can actually create a perfect likeness of you or your loved one. And we want to, you know, bring you in on this introductory deal. And, oh, by the way, we're Skynet from the Terminator. So you might get that email one day or that message pop up on your machine, and that may be the day you say, all right, that's it, I'm done. You know, so that's what I say, while you have certain things in front of you, and not to be gluttonous about it, but certainly you want to value it, and you certainly want to apply and use what's here, because this stuff isn't forever, man. I mean, look at our great leaders, our great teachers and stuff, man. They're gone. You know, the best minds that we have produced have already been produced, and we're not reproducing at that level anymore. So this generation that we're watching now is not the greatest generation that we've produced. We're seeing a devolvement in intellectualism and maturity. We're seeing a devolvement in universal context. People don't even know their positioning, can't even map their place in the world. We've produced the best of our minds, you know, and I'm sure at a time we just thought it was going to always be like that. But anyway, we're going to continue on with this on self-esteem. We're going to take a break real quick, and then as soon as we come back, I'm going to get deeper into the actual topic for this evening. We'll be right back. Greetings all. This is Chief Yuya, and if you're interested in learning how herbs can be used for healing and magic, then join us on September 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern for a power-packed Anu Nation webinar entitled The Spiritual Gifts of Herbs. The Spiritual Gifts of Herbs is a live webinar and will be hosted by host of Anu Asafo, co-host of Chief Speaks, member of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center, and our resident alchemist, Kim. Some of the topics covered will be the use of herbs for specific uses in spiritual practices, discerning which herbs are best for men and women, and why certain herbs are associated with male or female deities, as well as creating a working relationship with your ally, herbs of nature. Those who RSVP early and attend the event will receive 25% off of all Anu Nation products and services. To RSVP, simply go to anunation.org/events. That's ANUNATION.org/events. power.for/EVENTS and register before September 13th. Learn how to choose herbs to create effective rituals by attending the Spiritual Gifts of Herbs webinar. I'll see you there. All right, and we're back with more Thunderground Thursday on enlightenment and transformation. Speaking, I am Chief Yuya, and I want to thank you all, of course, for those of you who have tuned in or just tuning in. And this evening we're speaking about self-esteem. And self-esteem, tricky one there, right? Tricky one. Because sometimes we have certain ideas, words, and concepts that relate themselves to other ones. And because sometimes we're not a people of scholarship as much as we should be, we don't take the time sometimes to learn exactly what we're saying, which, that's a big no-no with me. Okay, so any of you students or anybody who's my real student, or anybody who's been with me for a while or studied with me, that's one of the first things I'll do when you have a conversation with me, especially when you're trying to impose a thought on me, which a lot of people like to do. They like to test their, flex their muscle a little bit when they first meet me. And, one of the easiest things you could do to shut somebody down when you sense, because a lot of times you can feel the vibration of a person. You can feel when, let's just be honest, when they don't know what the heck they're talking about. You can feel it. You can feel when they're just parroting, where their core values and core identity doesn't line up with what it is that's coming out of their mouth. You can absolutely feel it. It's almost like when you're, like you have those kids that come around, they try to sell you, those magazine subscriptions. They don't do it that much anymore. I guess people get this stuff online, but, they knock on your door and they say, you can get, 15 years of Vibe magazine. They be citing on these magazines that are out of publication. It's a con. That's why. And they say, yeah, you can get Right On, Vibe. Oh, and Popular Mechanics. I see you have a car, and they'll say, because, I'm just doing this because I'm trying to stay off the streets. I'm trying to really get my life together and da-da-da. It's, they tell them all the same con story. But when you listen to them, you can feel the con because you're saying what's coming out of your mouth is not what's in your heart. What's in your heart is like you're tired, you want to get off your feet, you're not making any money. Just hurry up and buy this crap so I can go home. That's what I'm feeling from your core. That's that projection of the solar chakra. The sun is gonna reveal itself. You can put as many clouds of intellectualism or clouds of conjecture, over the truth of the sun, but it's gonna come through. It's gonna come through. Your projected truth, which may not even be your real truth, but it's what you're projecting. The real truth is what's behind that sun, on the other side of the chakra ladder, the backside, the clip off. A whole nother conversation, whole nother show. That's a Foundational Friday thing. But anyway, so that's what I'm saying. Self-esteem could be a little tricky in defining it, because it's so closely related to self-worth, self-value, just feeling good about yourself, positive identity, positive outlook, PMA, positive mental attitude, things like that. We kind of lump them all in together and not realize that they're working parts of a machine, but you got to kind of know what parts do what, or you lose sight a little bit. So self-esteem, right? Well, let's make it simple, right? Self, real simple, right? What is the self? The self is the soul. Okay. The actualized self. Now, there are different forms and versions of the self. Yeah. You have your soul self, your spirit self, your body self, your auric self, your energetic self, your conscious self, your subliminal self. There's a lot of selves. So that's why when somebody says I, it's like, who? Which I? Or in Europe when we say omi meaning water. But me is my as well. And O is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of me is the word that we use for water. You figure that one out, right? So there's a lot of different dimensions. There's a lot of different things and organisms that are contained in the idea of the I. Okay, it's not just how you're feeling. I'm sick, I'm cold, I'm hot. That's okay. That's a projection of what the body I once is doing. Or I'm a Cancer, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Libra, I'm a Capricorn. Okay, that's one of the I's, but it's not the core I. So we got the self, right, which is an all-encompassing community of the I. Then we have esteem, right? And esteem is a well, I like it. I think I prefer the term self-esteem to self-worth a lot of times, just based on the type of language that I use. And reason being is because self-worth is an inherent value. You see, like worth is what you consider something to be. It's very subjective. You see, so when we say I have self-worth or a good sense of self-worth, one of the things that we'll say with something that's inanimate, we'll say, well, what is it worth to you? Because what it's worth to you may not be worth the same thing to me. You see, so the whole self-worth piece, you may put in subjective ideas to up the worth of something. So you'll say, well, I'm a child of God, so I know I'm worth something. I'm a black man, and black men are rare these days. That's worth something. You go through all the lists. But really it's subjective. And it's really just a tool. When we deal with self-worth, it's a tool for motivation to get into a space where one can have proper self-esteem through actions. See, self-esteem is something that we gain through doing. That's why you be careful. Like a lot of times with self-worth and self-value, sometimes people overvalue themselves through a distorted sense of self-esteem. You see, like you'll have some people will tell you, listen, like especially in my profession, you get that because people always want to tell me that they're not as lost as I know they are. Because, you're a Christian fanatic, but you're coming to a quote unquote voodoo priest to get a reading. Obviously, you got some troubles in your life. And they'll always tell me, listen, I'm a very intuitive person. So it's not like what you're telling me I didn't know. Or I'm very educated. I have a degree. So what? Like everything you're saying is the basics. Everybody's intuitive. And going to school and getting a degree means absolutely nothing. I mean, it means something to me because in many senses, it means you're closer to being an idiot than someone who may not have a degree. And I'm not saying that everyone out there with a degree is an idiot. I went to school too. But what I'm saying is that if you're bragging about it, then that means you don't know about it. You don't know. You don't know what you're really doing. It's like a melanin dominant person bragging about being an American. Then you kind of already know, you get a sense of what you're dealing with. Okay. Yeah, I see. There's no point in even, having certain conversations with you because you're so lost. There's so much that's left out here. It's not even worth talking about, So sometimes, again, our self-esteem or our self-worth is thwarted or it's perverted because we have a wrong value system. And that value system creates a certain worth in our minds. But again, remember the worth, how you value yourself, how you consider yourself to be worthy. It's very individualistic. Okay. But there is ways that one could legitimately lose value, and there's ways that one could legitimately gain value. I did a show on value before. I suggest cross-reference on the shows. Check out the show on value, which is different than worth. Because your self-worth is, again, your personal perspective. Sometimes somebody will say, they'll set a certain standard for themselves in a relationship. Okay, this person has to have A, B, C, D, and E. And I'm not, and it may go higher than E, but, for the sake of brevity with this show. So, and I'm not accepting anything less than that because I know my worth. Right? So those things that a person may want usually has nothing to do with what they consider their worth to be. Usually has nothing to do with that. But that's a subjective choice that they've made. So they may say, I want someone who's got money in the bank because I have my finances together. That doesn't really mean anything. And just because someone has money in the bank doesn't mean that they're good with money. Doesn't mean that they're good at money. Doesn't mean that they have high wealth potential. It doesn't even mean that they have high earning potential. Or they might have high earning potential but no high wealth potential. So sometimes our what we're looking for in terms of worth, it can be a little bit misleading. Okay, but it's a personal thing, so you leave it alone, right? Like if somebody says, I know I'm worth something because I'm a child of God and I got my degree, I got my master's. Far be it from me to say you have a master's in miseducation and you don't even know what God is. Far be it from me. When somebody says something like that, you'll just say, oh, okay, cool, awesome. You leave it at that because you're probably working with two different worth systems. But let's talk about self-esteem. That's what the show is about, right? Self-esteem. So when you're dealing with self-esteem, you're dealing with an estimation. Okay, that's the word estimate and the word esteem. They come from the same root. So now what are you estimating based on? You're not estimating based on intrinsic worth or a twisted sense of value. You're estimating your self-esteem based on things that you've actually done. That's where self-estimation comes from. So you don't say, well, I estimate that I'm a good person because I feel connected to the source. Right? 'Cause usually when we say things like that, we'll use words like source to keep it nice and ambiguous. Or I'm connected to the universe. Okay. That doesn't really have anything to do with esteem. See, that's why when we talk about self-esteem, we'll talk about self-esteem building activities. Why? Because when I do certain things, my self-esteem raises. So like a lot of times when we talk about long-term planning and setting goals, I think I've either done a show on this or I'm getting ready to do a show on this, but I remember thinking about it. I think I did a show on it. I know I at least mentioned it. Sometimes long-term goals can be difficult because in between where you are right now and the destination of that goal, it may be a very long road, and your self-esteem may be shot because you haven't really accomplished anything on that road or anything that you've envisioned. So then someone may come and give you a boost of self-worth. You can do this. You're the greatest. You're the nicest person. This, that. Like, you ever see like situations where someone has a child and the child is dating someone and the parent, usually the mother, but sometimes the father too, they'll say like, you can do so much better. I've heard that a couple of times, like different situations, clients and stuff. And it's always kind of tickled me because it's like, okay, you're not estimating your child properly. You're placing a sense of worth on them that the world is not going to comply with, because your child may be a dirtbag. And this is why they are dating a dirtbag. But as a parent, well, some parents, I'm not like that. But as a parent, sometimes you have rose-colored glasses, and when you see what your proper mate is for your child, you be like, oh no, I wanted you to be with a doctor or a lawyer or a senator. And it's like, they wouldn't be interested in your child. Your child's nothing. There's a big pile of nothing. You see, but you've placed this wrong and false worth on this child now. So they never even knew that they had to strive towards something to gain a better estimation of themselves. They had no idea. You find this a lot. This is how one of the ways you can always tell when someone is raised in a single parent household raised by a woman. Because that's what women do. See, the balance between the male and the female is that the woman is going to instill a sense of worth and the man is going to instill a sense of esteem. Because who's usually giving you the work to do? Your father. Go out there and put the barn together. Go out there and put that swing set together. Go fix your little brother's bike. Hey, me and you this weekend, we're going to paint, the side of the house. And those things build your esteem. You're acquiring those skills. Your mother's just like, hey, baby, hey, sweetheart. Like, you're just told that you're sweet, you're darling, you're a little pumpkin. You didn't even do anything. You're just sitting there. But you're told all of these beautiful and wonderful things by your mother typically. And these are the things that help you to recover when your self-esteem may have taken a couple of knocks because you didn't hit some of your marks. You see, but I can always tell when someone has that sense of worth. They're usually very hard to speak to. They don't do a good job at anything. That they're not thorough. And I can, especially when it's boys or a man, I can always tell you were raised by a woman. There was no man around, because you believe that you're a lot more special than what you are, and you're not. I had to tell some young men that recently. I'd look them in the eye and say, listen, there's nothing special about you. Nothing. And they were like, we are special because we're going to grow up to be this. I said, just your mother talking. What do you got right now that makes you so great? And by the time I was done, they had to realize nothing. I was like, right. So that means we got some work to do. We got to make you great, but you just don't come out. So, that's one of the dangers. Sometimes you hear mothers say that they'll call their children like, oh, this is my little king. Or even the women, the girls, this is my queen. I used to tell parents, don't ever say that to your children. Not only is it usually has nothing to do with your ethnic or cultural group, but aside from that, if they're a king and queen now, what are they striving towards? So you're going to tell me why they're lying to you and not flushing the toilet, and your son can't hold it, so he's peeing on the side of the house and he's squeezing girls' butts at school, and your daughter is the girl that lets the boys squeeze her butt for $1. She's a king and he's a queen? That sounds like even as a crack fiend mama, you still are a black queen mama. That sounds like some of that insanity. You see? So that's that twisted sense of self-worth. But when you put proper self-esteem building activities in front of yourself and your children, then you can make a real estimate. So your self-esteem won't be overinflated because of fantasy. It will be true to life. And even if it's little goals that you have accomplished, if it's little steps, your self-esteem will still be higher because you say, hey, I did something. I'm doing something. I'm getting some stuff done here. I may not be there yet, but I'm getting something done. And that feels a whole lot better than the fantasy. A whole lot better. Now, again, you may need that fantasy a little bit to get the job done. You may need a little bit of it just to get the job done. But the esteem has to kick in and take over. So, again, like I said, it's a little different than valuing yourself, because I know when you value yourself, you're inspiring yourself towards a greater level of productivity. When you're putting a certain sense of self-worth on yourself, you're inspiring yourself to a greater level of confidence. But remember that confidence and that higher level of productivity is supposed to feed into a more refined and realistic and natural sense of self-esteem, which comes by doing. So when people say things like, oh, you're damaging my self-esteem, that's absolutely impossible. Unless I'm stopping you from doing something, and then that's not damaging your self-esteem. That's just being a blockage. Your self-esteem comes from you accomplishing your objectives. Has nothing to do with anybody else. Nothing. So that's why, again, we do esteem building activities. You may give something to a child that they can do. Say, hey, here, we're going to put the training wheels on the bike, and we're going to ride around the block. And you're watching them as a parent, and you know when they get to the point where they're not even really using the training wheels anymore. So you'll make it a big deal of, we're going to lift up. So you may not take the training wheels off, but you may lift them up a little higher. Bend them up a little, loosen them up, lift them up a little higher. Say, okay, we're going to try to go up the block a little bit without the training wheels, right? Now, you already know they could do it, you see. But you're going to build their self-worth up and say, listen, you are the fastest biker on the block. And you got so much balance, you could ride that bike across a tightrope. You got to do the whole Bundini thing. Then after they do it, right? Okay, still looking for me. Okay. After they do that, then what they'll do is they'll go for the ride, right? And of course they'll be able to ride straight, and they'll say, look, you did it. See, look at that. You did it. You rode the whole block without the training wheels. Self-esteem build. You see? So That's one of the values of having that spiritual teacher, that spiritual guide, even that spiritual parent, because they help to build your confidence up to a certain space through realistic practices and application. You see? Yeah. So, anyway, that's our idea. I told you it was going to be a brief show. That's what I want you to think about as it pertains to self-esteem. Self-esteem is the active movement towards things that you want to do, or it's self-esteem is the product, the end product of moving towards the things that you want to do. Okay, it's moving towards that space. All right, and I'm going to cut right here because you want to know why. You know who's looking for me? One of my youth are looking for me, and for me to always make sure that their self-value and self-worth is assured. Whenever they're looking for me, I'm right there. Okay, so knowing my value and knowing my worth, I have to estimate what's more valuable. Okay, so that means I'm going to get off this show right now and I'm going to go deal with my youth and make sure that they are empowered and actively engaged in taking over the world. No. All right, so that has been our Thunderground Thursdays. I'll see you tomorrow on Foundational Friday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Peace.